The text came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports at my desk. "Hey Sarah, really sorry but we're keeping the birthday party small this year. Just immediate family. You understand, right?" I stared at the message from my sister Jennifer for a long moment. Her birthday celebration was in 3 days. For the past 8 years since she'd had her first child, I'd never missed one of these gatherings. I'd driven through snowstorms, rearranged business trips, and once even left a conference early just to make it to her celebrations. This year I'd gone even further. I'd spent 3 weekends shopping for presents. My daughter Emma had helped me pick out the professional art supplies for Jennifer's oldest daughter, who loved to draw. We'd spent an hour in the art store comparing brush sets and testing different paper textures. My son Michael had insisted on the expensive building set for her youngest son, the one he'd seen advertised during his favorite shows. Together, the gifts had cost nearly $2,000, but watching my kids carefully choose presents for their cousins had been worth every penny. I'd already wrapped everything in their favorite colors, adding handwritten notes from Emma and Michael, and cleared my entire weekend schedule. I'd even arranged for my husband to handle our kids' soccer games so I could help Jennifer set up for the party like I did every year. Of course, I typed back, "Have a great time." Jennifer's response came instantly. "Thanks for understanding. It's just too complicated with the house being small and everything." I knew her house. 4 bedrooms, 3,000 square feet in the suburbs, with a dining room specifically designed for entertaining. The same house where she'd hosted 30 people for her last birthday, plus a bounce house in the backyard for the kids. The same house where I'd helped her paint the accent wall last summer. The same house where my children had sleepovers with their cousins at least once a month. But I simply replied with a thumbs-up emoji and went back to work. I told myself maybe she really was keeping it small this year. Maybe she needed a quiet celebration. I could respect that even if it stung a little. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. Jennifer had posted a photo. I opened it and felt my stomach tighten. The sick feeling you get when you realize someone has lied directly to your face. The image showed her dining room table extended to its full length with place settings for at least 15 people. Cloth napkins folded into decorative shapes. Her good china. Crystal wine glasses. The full formal setup she only used for big celebrations. The caption read, "So excited for my birthday dinner this weekend. Grateful for amazing friends and family." I scrolled through the comments. Her college roommate Ashley was coming. Her neighbor Brittany. Her husband's co-workers. People I'd never even met were tagged, confirming their attendance. But no space for me. No space for my 2 kids who called her Auntie Jen, and made her birthday cards every year. I sat in my office for 10 minutes watching the comments pile up. Jennifer responded to each one with heart emojis and exclamation points. My phone stayed silent. That evening, I drove home and looked at the pile of wrapped presents in my guest room. My daughter Emma had helped me pick out the art supplies for Jennifer's oldest. We'd spent an hour in the store with Emma carefully reading the descriptions of each brush set, wanting to make sure her cousin got exactly the right ones for watercolor painting. My son Michael had insisted on the expensive building set for her youngest, the one that cost $300 alone. He'd been so excited, telling me how much fun they'd have building it together at the next family gathering. Together, the gifts had cost nearly $2,000. But it wasn't about the money. It was about the time. The thought. The careful attention to what each child would love. I'd spent weeks planning this. Researching what each kid wanted by casually asking them during our regular phone calls. Driving to 3 different stores to find the exact items because the online versions wouldn't arrive in time. Wrapping each present carefully with Emma and Michael's help. Adding handwritten notes from both of them telling their cousins how much they loved them. Now those presents sat in my guest room, meant for children whose mother had decided we weren't worth a seat at the table. Children who probably didn't even know they'd been excluded from seeing their aunt and cousins because their mother hadn't had the decency to be honest about her reasons. I sat on the edge of my bed staring at those wrapped boxes and something crystallized in my mind. This wasn't just about this party. This was about respect. About being valued. About teaching my own children that they didn't have to accept being treated as disposable. I made a decision. The next morning I loaded every single present into my car, then drove to the Children's Hospital downtown, the same hospital where I served on the board of directors. I set up my phone on the dashboard and started recording a video. These presents were meant for my niece and nephew, I said to the camera, keeping my voice steady. But their mother informed me there's no space for us at her birthday celebration. So instead, these gifts are going to children who could really use them. I filmed myself carrying the wrapped boxes into the hospital's donation center. The staff recognized me immediately and helped unload everything. Box after box of carefully chosen presents, each one representing hours of thought and planning. When I finished, I sat in my car and watched the video. 3 minutes of footage showing exactly what Jennifer's decision had cost her children. I sent the video to Jennifer without any message. Just the raw footage. Then I went to work. My phone started ringing 12 minutes later. I ignored it. Jennifer called 4 more times in the next hour. I declined every call. Text messages flooded in. Sarah, what did you do? Call me right now. This is insane. You can't just give away their presents. The kids are going to be devastated. I responded only once. You said there wasn't space for us. I found children who had space for the presents. Her response came in seconds. You're being petty and vindictive. They're just kids. I typed back. Exactly. They're kids who would have loved to see their aunt and cousins. But you made a choice. My phone rang again. This time it was my mother. Sarah, Jennifer is hysterical. What happened? I explained calmly. The text saying there was no space. The Instagram post 2 hours later showing 15 place settings. The decision to donate the presents rather than give them to children whose mother had excluded us. She said the party was just getting too complicated, Mom said carefully. Then she posted photos inviting her neighbor and her husband's co-workers. People I've never met got invited. But not me. Not her niece and nephew. Mom was quiet for a moment. The kids are really upset. I'm sure they are. Maybe Jennifer should explain to them why their aunt and cousins weren't worth a seat at her birthday table. Sarah, that's harsh. What's harsh is excluding family and then expecting the presents anyway. What's harsh is making my kids feel unwanted and then acting shocked when there are consequences. I hung up and turned off my phone. The next day I got an email from my brother David. Jennifer called me crying. She wants you to get the presents back from wherever you took them. I wrote back. The Children's Hospital doesn't return donated items. Those presents are with kids who need them now. His response came quickly. She says you did this to embarrass her. I did this because I spent $2,000 and weeks of planning on presents for children whose mother decided we weren't important enough to include. She made a choice. I made a choice. That's how consequences work. Friday afternoon, Jennifer showed up at my office unannounced. My assistant Melissa buzzed me, her voice careful. Your sister is here. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's urgent. I could have made her wait. Could have told Melissa I was busy. But I wanted this conversation to happen on my terms, in my space where I had the power. Send her in. Jennifer walked into my office looking exhausted. Her eyes were red and puffy, her hair pulled back messily in a way she would never have allowed if she were seeing anyone else. She wore sweatpants and an old college t-shirt. She sat down across from my desk without being invited, without asking, collapsing into the leather chair like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. You had no right, she said immediately, her voice shaking. I had every right. Those were my presents. I bought them with my money. I can decide where they go. You did this to hurt me. To ruin my birthday. To make me look bad in front of everyone. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my voice level and professional. I did this because you hurt me. You excluded my children from a family celebration, lied about your reasons, and then expected me to hand over expensive presents anyway. That's not how this works, Jennifer. The party was getting too complicated. Her voice rose, desperation creeping in. Then why did you invite 5 new people 2 hours after telling me there wasn't space? Why did your neighbor get a seat? Why did your husband's co-workers get invited? People I've never even met got to celebrate your birthday, but not your sister. Not your niece and nephew who love you. Jennifer's face flushed deep red. Those were different circumstances. Ashley is my best friend from college. Brittany just lost her job and needed cheering up. Mark's co-workers have been helping him with a big project. And what about me? What about 8 years of never missing a single one of your celebrations? What about driving through that snowstorm 3 years ago when everyone else canceled? What about staying up all night to help you prep food for your parties? Did none of that earn me a seat at your table? She didn't answer. You made a calculation, I continued. You decided we weren't worth including. So I made a calculation too. I decided children at the hospital would appreciate those presents more than kids whose mother doesn't value their family relationships. That's not fair. What's not fair is my kids asking me why Auntie Jen doesn't want them at her birthday party. What's not fair is watching you post happy photos with strangers while my children feel rejected. You don't get to create that situation and then act like you're the victim. Jennifer stood up. You've always been like this. Calculating. I've always been the person who shows up, who remembers birthdays, who buys thoughtful presents and makes time for family. And you took that for granted. You assumed I'd just accept being excluded and still hand over the gifts like nothing happened. What do you want from me? Nothing. I wanted a seat at your birthday table for me and my kids. You made it clear that wasn't available. So now you know what it costs to exclude family. She walked to the door then turned back. The kids are asking where their presents are. Tell them the truth. Tell them their mother decided not to invite their aunt and cousins to the party, so their aunt donated the presents to children who needed them. Let them learn what happens when you treat family as disposable. Jennifer left without another word. That evening I picked up Emma and Michael from school. Emma asked if we were still going to Auntie Jen's party. No, sweetie. Aunt Jennifer decided to keep the party very small this year. But we're family, Michael said, confused. I know, buddy. Sometimes people make choices we don't understand. What about the presents we picked out? I pulled into our driveway and turned to face them. Remember how we always talk about helping people who need it? Those presents went to kids at the hospital who don't have much. Kids who are sick and could really use something special. Emma thought about this. Did they like the art supplies? I bet they loved them. That's good then, Michael said quietly. But I'm still sad we can't see Auntie Jen. Me too, buddy. Me too. Saturday came and went. Jennifer's birthday party happened without us. She posted photos later that night. 15 people around her table laughing and celebrating. Not one photo included my children's faces. Sunday morning my mother called. Jennifer feels terrible about how this happened. Does she? Or does she feel terrible about losing $2,000 in presents? Sarah, that's unfair. What's unfair is watching my kids' faces when they realize they weren't wanted at a family party. What's unfair is being treated as less important than strangers. Jennifer made her priorities clear. I just responded accordingly. She wants to apologize. Then she can apologize. But the presents aren't coming back. Those kids at the hospital already have them. And honestly, I'm glad they do. At least those children will feel valued. Mom sighed heavily. This is going to affect family relationships for a long time. Jennifer affected family relationships when she excluded us. I just made sure there were consequences. Maybe next time she'll think twice before deciding family isn't worth a seat at the table. I hung up and looked out my window. Emma and Michael were playing in the backyard, laughing and chasing each other around the swing set. They deserved better than being treated as afterthoughts. They deserved better than being excluded while strangers got celebrated. And Jennifer deserved to learn that actions have consequences, that you can't treat people as disposable and expect them to keep showing up with arms full of expensive presents. My phone buzzed with another text from Jennifer. I'm sorry. Can we talk? I typed back, maybe eventually. But not today. The presents were gone. The lesson was delivered. And my children knew that their mother wouldn't let them be treated as less than they deserved. That was worth more than any birthday party.